Hello and welcome to The Awkward Corner, a podcast where we're discussing everything and anything to do with design. My name's Stephen, and with me today is Amy.
Hello.
And SJ.
Hello.
Today's topic is going to be retail, where we're going to have a little look about the future of retail experience, retail design, and how it's all working really in the coming years. How are we? Good?
Good, thank you.
Yeah. That's good to know. I've got lots to say on this topic.
Shocking.
So I think we probably just dive in.
Get straight
Equally,
into it.
I don't want to talk all the time, obviously. No. But obviously I have a vested interest in this with what I've been studying. But retail. Is there a future of retail?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to add a subtext to that. But
Next.
Thanks for listening.
Quick fire.
Quick fire. What else do you want to know? In the conventional sense, do we think there is a future for retail as we know it then? Or is it going to change?
Can we answer now?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I'm sorry. No.
It's fine. I mean, it's succinct. And I'm here for that.
I think it's one of those things that we know that in terms of the development of retail design and technology and how it's moving forward. But there's always going to be the underlying principles of what retail can offer in the physical sense. Even if you combine it with VR.
I think there's always a place for a traditional retail setting.
Yes.
And that personal experience when you go into a store to buy something in particular.
There is. You're right.
I think it's the experience though, isn't it? I mean, what do you think sorry, go on, Stephen.
No,
tell us.
It's there'll always be a conventional, because people have always shopped in that sense, because bartering way back in the day, shopping. You know, people would go to a market, trade. Why are you laughing?
I don't know.
One of
You
my
thinking about Stephen bartering?
I'm just thinking about, it's nice when he takes a trip down memory lane, isn't it?
there in my medieval rags. Who will buy
In
my
your ruff.
turnips?
Good day, sir.
Who will buy my turnips? But it's true though. That's the whole, the essence of retail is consumer, isn't it? It's like buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. That's not going to disappear. But in terms of what retail from a design point of view is, I think is becoming very challenging. And the only reason I say that is we've seen a massive decline in the department store.
Yeah.
And that is a mecca. So forget shopping centres for the minute, but the department store is a mecca, particularly in Britain.
Which is sad. I think it's sad.
I think it's sad actually, because I think that...
Do you?
Yeah.
I do. And only because I'm thinking about the TV show, Mr. Selfridge. And I just like that... Yeah, are you being so... No, but that whole people going shopping, they can get everything that they need in one place. This level of service that they would get. And again, it comes back to that level of personal service.
It's interesting you mentioned Selfridges though, there, Mr. Selfridge, because that hasn't gone.
No. But then they offer something completely different.
Whereas when I talked about Are You Being Served, that classic department store, which was still relevant in that sense.
Debenhams, yeah. Or House of Fraser.
You've got even BHS, not quite the same capacity, but in a similar kind of thing, because there's multiple concessions within it.
The Co-op.
The
They
Co-op
used to
is a
have
good
big
example.
department
Exactly,
stores,
it's a
didn't
good
they?
example, and some beautiful buildings as well.
Yeah, well, they had a
Yeah.
huge one in Nottingham that was in a lovely building.
It's a lovely building. But they don't, that's the point. That's where I would say the distinction is between someone like Selfridges, who are very customer driven in terms of
experience.
Personal kind of, well, it is customer service, isn't it? It's knowing who their customer is. Even though they have a wide base, it's still about what they offer. The conventional kind of department store, what did they offer? What did Debenhams offer?
It's true, because the prestige that goes alongside visiting Selfridges when you're looking for something.
Harrods, yeah.
Harvey Nichols.
Yeah.
Fortnum & Masons, which is one of my absolute favourites.
But then they are high-end retail, aren't they?
I think that's the difference, isn't
that's
it?
The key.
And I think high-end retail, for me, it's about the level of service that you get.
Yeah.
And I love a shopping experience when you get a high quality level of personal service.
Like your own butler.
Yes, or my PA when I send him out to get things for me.
Yes, Mom.
I think that that's different. And I don't think that's actually got anything to do necessarily with the setting.
Yes, maybe, I suppose.
That was a good sound.
That's where my
Was it
brain works.
slowing down?
That's what my brain works. I was coming back from the medieval times. I think it does have some element of design, because if you look at those establishments, though, there is always innovation within them.
There is.
There is always something changing, something happening. Especially right now, Selfridges are brilliant at having, like, I don't want to say pop-ups, because like that's easy out, but being innovative in terms of how they attract.
They are
not just their main core customer, but their wider.
But then they've always been like that when you think about the facade and the window displays that they have.
That's it.
They're always at the forefront of the
design.
innovation.
That's design, isn't it? I think it's really interesting that you've got Selfridges and Harrods and you've got Fortnum & Masons, who are high end, but in order to stay high end, you are always innovating. You're always doing things better than other people. That's why, like anything in retail, you're always going to have
But
a
then
high
that's
end,
why they're
a low
still
end.
successful.
Yeah, that's why they can outlive it.
Yeah.
That's why they've avoided, and in some ways, they've actually decided to kind of take that mantle on of being the innovators in retail, and I think that's something that I think you're starting to see in terms of a trickle down
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
effect, where other retailers need to start looking at it. What is interesting though, I've just come across an article that says in South Korea there's this brand new Hyundai Seoul mall in South Korea. It's the future of retail design. So they're actually building a new shopping mall. Obviously, it's a wider extension of the department store. But you have a situation where in America, a lot of the malls are closing down in the same way that we've lost a lot of shopping
Our department stores.
But it's really interesting that the way they've approached this is obviously tapping into the personal experience of going there. Because you're not just going there for the retail.
You're going there for the experience.
You're going there for much, much more. And I think that's what our department stores simply weren't doing, because they weren't innovating, were they? I don't think.
No. When you talk about that one, is that sort of like a complex of retail stores, or is it just one in particular?
It is. This is a multi-use mall, so it's going to have lots of different things going on in there.
And I think that's it. There's a lot of things going on. There's lots of different things that you can do in terms of restaurants, I'm guessing, because that's another key factor that brings people in.
And we do still have them in this country, because we've got Blue Water, which is in Dunny Kent.
Yes.
We have the Trafford Centre over in Manchester.
Yeah.
There's Metro Centre up in the northeast.
Yeah.
There's Meadowhall in Sheffield. Which again are doing that, but I still don't think some of them are.
No.
While they've got all the kind of retailers there, the retailers themselves in there are still not innovating in the same way I would.
No, and I think it's coming to a really key turning point now, because people that are not doing it are going to fall under, and people that do take it on are going to, grab the ball by the horns, so to speak.
I agree. I think it's all about, from what I've kind of picked up on, I think it's very much about experience. And I don't even think it's a personalized experience, even though I think that's part of it, because it's what you as a customer can get from a brand.
Yeah.
I think it's more about what also the brand can do for you as a customer.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of good examples here. Where's one of them? Let's have a look. So Adidas have just opened one of their most digital stores, they say, which is in London. And so this is a flagship store for Adidas.
Yeah.
And it is littered with digital options. So
I've read about this.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of things going on in this store. It's not just about product, it's about technology. It's about.
But I think that's the balance, isn't it? There's a balance there.
Yeah.
In terms of success.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a balance between physicality and digital sequencing.
There is, and it's how much of it is still retail.
Yes.
And how much of it is
virtual,
and how much of it is doesn't actually involve buying anything. Because I know in the Adidas store, and also there are other stores doing it, where you buy there, but you buy digitally. You don't buy.
That blows my mind. Does it? You know.
Why? I'm curious to know. Why would you go to a store to buy it online?
I don't know. That's what I mean. I don't know.
I find that really, really
bizarre.
Intriguing.
There must be something drawing you to that space.
Yeah.
There's got to be an ulterior motive.
And that's the experience?
Yeah.
That's the design of the experience that's in the store.
Because as a designer, as a retail designer, there are certain principles that you stick to in terms of planning out a space for retail. And one of them is that sequential experience that you're providing. So you're looking at how the...
Formulaic, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're looking at how the customer will move through the space. You are the one that's directing them through that space. So there's got to be the same principles in terms of the approach and design.
I agree.
Even if it's...
I agree.
If the physicality is removed. It's... Yeah. Retail is in the detail.
I mean, it is. But then when I was reading about Adidas, and I was looking at Nike as well with their new flagship stores, which are very, very digital, there's very little product in them as well. So it's not even as if you're going in and exploring the product and then going, okay, I'll order that on my phone and then it's there when I get home or in a couple of weeks. They're not even actually engaging in that much product. It really is almost an immersive brand experience, which is not retail, is it? It's not retail.
No, it's kind of bordering exhibition. And like we were talking about curating.
It's something else. It is something entirely different, for sure. What else you got?
I've got a few examples on my list. I can't pronounce the name. It's a wine shop and it's designed by Suko Studio.
Divino
Viadas.
Yeah.
Yes, we will put an example up,
Okay,
an image up, because you need to see it. And it's basically it's a wine selection display, and the way that the space has been designed, it's focused on the arches, and it's constructed out of MDF, varnished MDF, but it's trying to mimic the view of looking into a wine glass.
Right.
So you have to see the images to kind of
really...
depict. But when you're talking about how you just,
I mean, my eyes are closed when I'm drinking wine, if I'm honest. I'm sitting back and I'm...
Well, the next time you've got a wine glass in front of you, you'll look through it.
God, but doesn't that depend on your wine glass as well?
True.
So many questions about it. But carry on.
But yeah, it's a really nice example. And I think that is sort of at the pinnacle of what you're talking about in terms of how retail designers are moving forward, and it's becoming more about the design of the space than it is the product itself.
Yeah, is it engagement with the product, but not as you...
Exactly.
As you know it, Jim. It's definitely more... It's that kind of... It is engagement with product, but on a brand level rather than an actual physical...
Yes.
Look at this dress or look at this, whatever it is.
Yeah, because you wouldn't look... When you see this image, you wouldn't look at this and think, that's a wine shop. They're selling wine there. And I think that's something that that draws people in. People go for the experience as opposed to the product.
On that basis then, do we think, because it's obviously a very specialist area of interior design, do you think that's becoming a whole different area to learn to design for than it ever was before? Because retail's always had a slightly separate kind of specialist approach to it, but now more than ever, could you, as a conventional interior designer, I think it's quite hard to approach a retail project. What do you think?
I think it depends. I think it depends on your versatility and how open-minded you are, and whether you're prepared to work with people that know that specialist area, like VR specialists.
But that's it, isn't it? There's the layers potentially now that are coming into retail, from what I've seen anyway. That, like, I think of myself and all the stuff I learnt when I was a student, and obviously what I've previously done, experience-wise. And I just think, it's becoming a very specialist area of interiors, like almost that it probably wants its own course. I wouldn't necessarily say you could cover now on a traditional interior design course retail in that conventional sense, because it's asking you for so much more.
It is,
and I think that's a really fascinating point to get to from a designer's point of view.
I think in order to be successful, definitely.
Because if you look at some of the studios that are around, and we talked about some of them when we've talked about other things, it's having that very expert knowledge now to provide something that isn't that conventional. Yeah, there'll always be, like, Marks and Spencer's probably, where you stack it all and sell it, because there's a real problem. There's a real retail design problem. Apologies to Marks and Spencer's. But
you've just alienated a whole lot of people, haven't you, there?
I know, but it's true though. Again, that's a company. They're a really good example actually of a company that's steeped in tradition, that's always had a good core place in the market with a customer loyalty.
They are, and they are always going to have that customer loyalty, aren't they?
But are they banking on that? Because who is that generation of?
It depends where the generation goes. Like you say, there's a certain generation.
If you're not taking them with you, then and you're not innovating.
Yeah.
Then where do you go? Because I think John Lewis are at risk of that. From talking, they're one of the few now department store that are outside of the kind of big luxury ones. That I don't think, like, I've gone in the one in Nottingham, and it's some interesting things they've got going on. Like, they've got a little Nespresso bar thing now with the branding of that. But I wouldn't say there's any real innovation going on in the store.
No.
And so again, it feels very much like you are investing purely on brand loyalty, but what are you doing to win over the brand loyalty?
Yeah. Or what are you doing to appeal to a different audience, I think, to make sure that
a new audience.
Yeah, that your brand spans the time.
There's a really good example of that, which is Tiffany's. Now, we all know Tiffany's. We've all had breakfast there. And I think they are in an interesting position, because they obviously have a particular customer base, and it's high end, and it is what it is, and it's always been traditional. But they are aware that if that generation, the kind of children of the parents and the grandparents, as it were, are not coming through in the traditional sense, where do you get that? And what they did, they created a pop-up store in Covent Garden. I don't know if it's still there actually, but it was done in a completely different way to the traditional Tiffany jewelers. For a start, they had a vending machine in there where you can literally just put your money in, or your card probably, and have small items, so like little bookmarks, little charms. So you're appealing or retailing to in a completely different way to a different audience.
Yes, and that is the beauty of a pop-up. And placing a pop-up like Tiffany's in a location like Covent Garden, in terms of the people and the audience that it's going to attract, is just spot on.
But that's it. And I thought it's a very, very clever piece of design, because they've also got small items there, which again is not as expensive, just to introduce you to the brand. And again, it's building a new customer base.
And that's the idea.
I love the product, and now I'm getting older. And like they're introduced, because I can't ever see Tiffany's shops not being necessarily the way they are, but you need to pull in,
of course you do,
that new generation, don't you, and engage with them in a different way, because this comes back to marketing as well, in terms of how that overlaps with brand experience, which is why I think a lot of interior design in retail has gone very social media
driven
orientated. Like, we talk about restaurant design. We've all heard of the Instagrammable wall, where wings behind you, God knows what else, that you're taking pictures of. But it's the promotion of, you are doing their marketing for them. because of the design within the store. And I think if you look at virtual reality and augmented reality, I think that's becoming very much.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to Insta when they went into Debenhams last?
Whoa.
Oh, nobody. I think that's it, though. I think people of a certain generation are looking for Instagrammable spaces.
Yeah,
it's all about their own content, and yes, they are then publicising someone else, but they don't mind because it makes them also look cool.
Because it's all part of that
influencer
joined up experience. I love the fact as well that, again, go back to the sports brands like Nike, where you can now go in and have bespoke versions. They also do limited drops, which is a big thing, I think, for retailers as well, because you create that scarcity. But that just feeds into the kind of narrative that they are looking to create. And that does mean the bespoke element, because 20 years ago, maybe a bit more than that, but you would never have thought somebody like Nike would be doing custom-made trainers in the traditional sense of like where I'd go and have a custom-made suit. Very nice. But trainers, why would I do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's coming back to like what you said. It's reflective of people wanting to promote themselves, because people are so focused on how they look, how they're perceived on social media.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go and have your own Nike trainers custom made?
Exactly.
Why not?
It's personal expression, isn't it?
Yeah.
And surely it's particularly streetwear in that sense.
Yeah.
Is the ultimate personal
Of course it is.
expression. Who wants to wear the same suit as everybody else in that sense? But people do, because that's a type of thing, isn't it? But certainly we're trying. I love I think they call it the something lab, and I can't remember. I've written it down somewhere, but I've got that much paper. I can't find it. But it is the fact of you are going in and you can specify. They also have the running lab, so you can test the equipment.
Yeah.
So you go in and you can try them on, and you can they measure your gait and all
that in
those
itself
kinds of things.
is creating an experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for the
It's just
serious
providing
people,
something different.
It's the two sides, though, isn't it, of the brand there? Because it's like the street aspect, the fashion element of it, where you
and then the serious, like the running.
So they are, and that's a wide range of people.
Yeah.
Yet as a brand experience, they are nailing it because they are still pulling in the right people, because they're doing things in the store that is relevant to those people, and everyone is having a good experience with it, and then obviously telling their friends and everybody else. I do think it's really interesting, though. Do you think if you were going to do interior design today, you were starting out on the journey?
Yes.
Would you want to be a retail designer?
I think there's a lot there to explore. Yes. I mean, it's an area that really interests me. So.
I think it's always been one of the most interesting areas of interior design.
And I think the way that it's moving forward, it's just sort of at this transitional stage where there's so many different possibilities.
It's not easy though, is it?
No,
it's not an easy sector.
No, and I think
there's a lot of considerations.
Yeah,
hard. Yeah, it is hard.
That's what I think the challenge is. But then maybe it's not for people that are just starting out. Maybe it's for people that have got more experience.
Maybe not, but then I would argue, if you look, like I've got a lot of stuff here that talks about Generation Z, but then also you've got Generation Alpha who are coming through, and they are digital natives.
Yes.
And I would argue that they may well have the kind of skills.
Yeah, that's true.
Or the exposure.
I mean, we're dinosaurs compared to them.
Right? I mean, I'm practically on the Antiques Roadshow. It's the digital, it's a true story. It's the digital skills that they will have that's already half the design battle.
I know. I mean, my daughter's got more digital skills than I have.
Yeah, I know. My son does things with the telly that I didn't even know were possible.
Who knew that?
Indeed.
I find that really interesting, because I would see they are already prepping themselves.
Yeah.
Because they are the customer base that we're designing, or going to be designing for anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested to see how they approach design, because I would assume they would want it to be a lot more interactive, a lot more innovative. So maybe.
But then are those key underlining principles, where do they sit? Where do they fit into the new retail designer?
The fundamentals of design.
Yes. Where does that sit within?
I don't know if they exist anymore, I'll be honest with you. Because that is an interesting debate. Do they even exist in a like a kind of immersive interior?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at combining the architectural elements with AR to create immersive modern retail experiences.
It is.
And I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with the whole thing of losing. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Just yeah.
It's the future.
It is the future, but that's the difficulty, isn't it? Of that's why I think it's such Amy said it's a challenging area, because particularly for established designers, because in some ways it's a completely new way of thinking and approaching the project, because it's maybe not about line.
Bear with us, Joe's just having
Choking.
some sort of
I was just having a drink.
It's the future. She's broken her. Do you use those fundamental skills? I'm designing a project at the minute, and I don't think I've actually used the conventional set of...
Well, it depends what your conventional set of principles are.
Like, the one thing I would say, you look at form and you look at space, they're always going to be there, no matter what you're designing, because it is what it is, isn't it?
And then, I mean, one of the things for me, especially for retail design, is how do you slow down that customer journey? How do you slow down the customer so that they immerse themselves into that space?
Not just in and out.
So it's not like, going back to the key principles about form, I think for me, that is one of them. And then thinking about that, like I say, that's keeping going with that sequential experience. Defining your space.
But then that's where other things come in. So it's not just about retail, though, is it?
No.
Because I've got one here where is it?
Here's one I made earlier.
It is very much more what I made earlier. Oh no, it's not. It's over here. I will find it. It's Louis Vuitton.
Yes.
And they've opened their first ever luxury restaurant in Japan.
Yes.
And
I've seen this.
And I think this is a really good example of the fact that it's not about shopping anymore.
No.
It's not about retail in the conventional sense.
Then it's the brand, isn't it? It's the Louis Vuitton brand.
It's the brand, but this is the point of what you're asking, what's making people stay and stop and engage in the experience. It's the other elements. That's where your traditional fundamental skills as an interior designer still come in. Because a bar or a restaurant is still a bar and a restaurant. And how you design that is not going to change. It's the other bits around that. Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
It's right.
That's right.
It's right.
True story.
And I like the fact that, and they're not the only one. There is a few of them starting to do it because they've obviously realised this is a good thing because, hey, we can make more money and actually we can get people to linger. Yeah. Hey, and actually they're ordering it on their phone and they've had 3 glasses of wine now.
Yes.
And they're probably going to buy 5 handbags they don't need.
See, when I was looking into this and looking into retail design or reading articles about retail, I came across omni-channel marketing as a method.
Blows your mind, that does.
Huh?
It blows your mind.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first time I've sort of come across it, where businesses are promoting the products and services across all the channels. So it's going back to that sort of digital platforms. I mean, it essentially is there. It's to reach a different customer audience, isn't it? So a lot of design studios now are working with omni-channel marketing specialists to implement those strategies into their brand, and their brand identity and their designs.
Yes, I agree. Shall we explain what omni-channel is?
Yes,
Go
please.
Just for Amy.
For the mentally challenged among us.
It is where, it's due purpose. So it's not just
many channels.
I think it's a method, isn't it?
Yes, it's mainly across the two. So you have a physical space and you have a digital space. And it's how those two sit together.
Come together.
That's exactly it.
The future.
The future. And I think
right now.
But that proves the point though, isn't it? If you're designing a physical space, you're still thinking about a digital space that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
Because it's an extension of the actual the actual retail experience still. Because again, if you have a really bad website, doesn't matter how good the store is or how exciting it is or all the cool things you're doing in there, if you can't shop properly still,
yeah.
What difference does it make? You know?
It's a true story.
I do like that principle though, because where some of the retailers that I've read about are very good at now is what they're doing is, obviously like people like Amazon, obviously you can have the drop boxes and things like that. But for some of them, they are only deliverable to store. So you order online, you have to come in.
I don't get that.
Into the brands. Well, think about it.
Okay, so it's bringing you into the store.
It's bringing you in.
But then if you're shopping online...
Yes.
And then they're making you come into the...
Leave your house.
So who does that? Would you do that?
No, I wouldn't do that, but then I'm quite lazy, so...
Because I just think, if that was me, I just think, well, I either order it online and get it delivered to me, or I just go to the store.
But I think for some of these brands, and I am talking again...
No, I do get it.
Brands,
I do get it, yes.
They will make it available for limited stuff. Because it's seen as a special thing. So you can only come and get it. They won't deliver it to you.
To be fair, record
only...
stores often do that. If you order something through somewhere like Rough Trade, you order it online and you have to go into Rough Trade and pick it up.
And I get that, because again, it's quite clever, because it builds again into that whole come into store, and then actually when you're in the store, there's other things going on. It's still not about retail, but it's about getting you to see what's going on. And especially if you are now in a semi-digital store where there are lots of things where they are changing constantly, there's actually always something to see when you come back, because you've got the ability to keep changing it up. Whereas if you design a store very statically, you go back to Marks and Spencer's as an example of that.
Wow, you're really bashing Marks and
Spencer's.
I am. What a shame.
This is no.
This is not
any.
This is not any podcast.
This is a
Marks and Spencer's bashing podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say an S&M one, but that's not right.
No, that's not right. That's definitely the wrong podcast.
Join us after hours.
For the Awkward Corner S&M version.
Every time we wrap this up, eh?
I know what I was trying to say.
Yeah, we get what you're trying to say.
That's a physical static space. Once you've designed it, they don't change it.
Yes. So what's the point of going back?
And what's the point of going back?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unless you are a traditionalist.
Yes, and I want that and comfortable. And there'll always be a small market for that, no matter what, I think, because people have habits, and that's an habitual thing, isn't it, to some degree, because it's familiar and people like that, and they don't want the change. So I think it's a really, really interesting and challenging period for retail design, and I personally am very excited to see where it goes, because I don't think there's any other sector. Maybe exhibition is,
but then I think retail and exhibition do have very similar links.
But it's an exciting time, because I think it's no longer about the four walls anymore. It's about so much more, and I'm really interested to know how you begin to start designing for that, especially if you're starting out, because I think there's so much opportunity to do so much more than just put a space together. It's the fifth dimension. I like that.
I do have one last example.
Go on then.
Which is a company called, a design studio called Blink, who are completely retail focused. They are a design agency, but they also specialise in omni-channel marketing. And one of their most recent projects is the ABBA. They're responsible for the ABBA Museum.
Oh, okay.
And they've done it to appeal. Yeah.
Just
stay with me here. Just stay with me.
I'd love to go. I won't have you bashing ABBA as well.
They've added, I mean, this kind of encompasses what you've been talking about, because they have added the broader contemporary pop culture context to the museum experience in order to make that destination more appealing to the younger audience who will not be familiar with ABBA.
I don't believe that anyone's not familiar with ABBA.
Well, my mind.
You know. Did I ever let you go? Anyway, retail, But have a look.
Isn't it great?
Have a look at the example. No, because they do, and they're using AR, and they're using technology, and they're using omni-channel marketing so that it filters through to the younger generation. For example, using AR for their Instagram and Snapchat filters. So lots of this.
Multi-platform.
It is. So it's not just about ABBA in a museum. It's the whole experience.
Immersive experience.
Yeah, and they've got merchandise, so it's a multifaceted space.
Are you listening, Mother? Because you're going to love this.
So
you can know the website.
You can buy memorabilia there, so it's not just about what they're exhibiting.
Consumerism.
Exactly.
It's feeding into consumerism.
So yeah, I just thought I'd pop that one in there.
I'm glad you did. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, really. I think it is a really interesting topic, retail design. I think you could talk forever and ever and ever about this because it is constantly changing. Let us know your thoughts if you have opinion on what you think retail is going to be like, or if you're interested maybe in discussing retail with us. We always like to know what you're thinking.
We do.
Contact us, awkward@nda.ac.uk, or follow us on Instagram at the National Design Academy. And if you can, like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, because we
rate and review.
Appreciate that. That's the one to do. And on that note, I'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Then I ever let you go.